some friends in the NorCal Hunters group had this amplifier that they were using to run their lightning and thunder effects in their haunt, and we were going to use it for a group project, and so they handed it off to me to get it set up as they were focusing on some other issues. And when I tried to set it up, I noticed that this one connector was a little loose, and I wasn't getting a strong connection with the speaker wire that's supposed to go in this connector. And as it turns out, the connector was broken. This little piece came out along with a little spring. Now, I spent a bunch of time and managed to get the piece in with the spring, but it still wasn't making a solid electrical connection with the wire. In my stash of parts had a whole set of connectors, and I thought, well, gee, why don't I just replace this set of connectors with this set of connectors? They are, after all, appear to be exactly the same. These amps are very inexpensive, right? So if I open this up and I break the whole thing, no big deal. I can buy another one of these literally for about $20 on Amazon. So I'm not taking a big risk here by opening it up and trying to fix it myself. It looks like maybe I'll have to take out these Phillips screws as well. There we go. Okay. Alright. Now let's pull off this plate. Okay. And here we can see our bank of connectors. And already I see a problem, because my replacement connectors have the contacts going straight back, and this piece clearly has them going down. Well, it turns out I had discovered this earlier, so I headed off to the internet and found the identical part. And again, these were only, about $1 a piece, so I went ahead and bought two, because one to screw up and one to actually use. To unsolder the existing one here, we're going to have to get this board out, and I think the trick to that is to take off the screws on this side and pull the whole module outside of the case. Okay, now that slides right out. So I think if I just unsolder those 4 points and then squeeze those black tabs, I can pop that puppy right out, and we'll put our new one in. I'm going to try this with a solder sucker, and if that doesn't work out, I have some solder wick as well that we can try. But these look like very simple big through-hole solder joints, so this should be pretty simple. It's not a sensitive component, so I'm not real worried about overheating it. Something. And after much finagling, I think I've got the part seated in place. good as new. Let's put it back together and see if it works. So I've reassembled the amplifier just by reversing what I did to take it apart, putting the screws back in, and then putting the all 8 screws in the corners of the front and back panels. What we'd like to do now is to test it. I thought this would be pretty obvious, but I've had a few questions lately from people who never had a traditional stereo growing up and never learned these things. So let me show you the basics of hooking up some stereo equipment. First, you need an audio source. This looks crazy. This is a prototype I'm putting together of a prop controller, so don't worry about the details of that. This might be a little MP3 player, an iPod, a phone that has an audio out jack. It could be a CD player, all sorts of things, whatever kind of basic audio source you have. Most of them nowadays will have a small jack that takes a plug like this. These are sometimes called 1/8 inch or 3.5 millimeter stereo jack. They have 3 segments. There's the tip, the ring, and the sleeve. And if it has 3 segments like that, you know it's for stereo. If it has only 2, it's for mono audio, which is pretty rare nowadays. Occasionally you'll see one that has 4, and usually one end of the cable will have a switch on it or something, and that's used for signaling whatever device it is. Some of your fancier ones for phones and headphones might have that, so you can pause and play from the thing. But this is a regular stereo jack. So I'm going to plug that into the output here, and then you see the amplifier has 2 ways to bring an input. You can use traditional RCA cables for the right and the left, or you can plug in the other end of your 3.5 millimeter cable. Now note, I'm starting from the audio source to the output. You kind of want to work in a systematic way. It prevents making mistakes, and it makes sure you have a complete circuit and things are likely to work from the start. I'm also not going to apply power till the very end. That way, if I do have a mistake, hopefully I will catch it before I apply power and do any damage. Speaker wire comes in a lot of different sizes, gauges, thicknesses. This is pretty standard for an audio system of this size. If you had a big home theater audio system, you might use a heavier gauge cable. But this is perfectly fine for what we're doing. You can see that the ends here are all frayed, which makes putting them into the connectors, both on the speakers and on the amplifier, rather tricky. And they're kind of already right at the end of where they had labeled them. You can try to just sort of twist them back into a point, but when things get this bad, I usually like to just clip a little and start fresh. So what I'm going to do is just snip off these ends so that I have some fresh wire here. Now I'm guessing that this is probably 16 gauge. That looks about right. So there's about 1/2 inch. For the 2 wires. If this weren't just a test, I'd probably take the soldering iron and tin a little bit of solder on it that holds all the loose strands together and makes it easy to insert them. The cable has a stripe on one wire and not on the other. The point of that is, ideally, you want to connect the red side of this to the red side on your speaker and vice versa. Now, I say ideally we want the red to the red and the black to the black. In real life, that's not going to make a difference, especially in a haunt. If you're hooking up a nice home stereo system, an audiophile will tell you that you want to keep the phase right, and it can make a difference within a small room and stuff. But these are going to be set up outdoors to make some thunder and lightning. So getting it exactly right is not important, and certainly not important for a little test, as long as we have both ends connected. So I'm going to plug in the red and the black. Oops, see, I'm fraying them already. And this is why you would tin the wires with a little bit of solder. Alright, now you don't want to see too much wire exposed there, and you don't want to feel like you're jamming a bunch of wire inside. The connection comes from the spring pushing the wire up against a metal plate at the top of the connectors. You don't have to go too far, and you don't want too much exposure. Okay, again, these ends they're not bad. They're kind of beat up. I'm going to cut them and start fresh just to illustrate that again. I take my stripper. I'm going to strip these a little deeper, and you'll see why when you see the connector on the back of the speakers. Again, a little twist to hold the strands together. There are two ways to connect to these types of terminals. You'll find different types of terminals on different speakers. These are pretty common. The kind we have on the back of the amplifier are not uncommon. And there's a couple other variations, but these are the most common things you'll see. These unscrew, and then you see a hole there in the bolt that the red cap screws down over. That's what we're going to use. If we had speaker wires they're called banana plugs, which are a little piece of metal that squeezes, then we could screw these all the way down and just insert the banana plug into the end there. I'm going to place the wire through the post and then screw the cap all the way down on the wire. You want to screw them down tight enough that the wires don't pull out easily, but not so tight that you're actually going to pinch the wires to the point that they break. So that's the right speaker. So quick recap. I have an audio source. I have the output from the audio source to the input of the amplifier. I have the outputs for the right speaker from the amplifier to the right speaker. I have the outputs from the amplifier's left to the left speaker. So we should be good to go, right? We have everything connected from the source to the output. So I'm going to go ahead and apply power, and I'm going to turn on the amp here and make sure the volume is all the way down. And I'm going to apply power to the prop controller, and in a second or two it should begin playing, and there it's playing. I'll bring the volume up, and there's our thunder sound effects. Now, was this worth it? Financially, sure. $2 of connectors is cheaper than $20 for a new box. But it was a lot of time, and what I've come to learn just from setting up the test is that these connectors are pretty fragile. Anyway, I think it was worthwhile because we figured out how to get into the thing. We had a little practice desoldering and soldering. We had a little practice finding parts online. These are all good skills, and so overall I think it was worth the time. In a pinch, would I do this? No, I would order from Amazon a new $20 amplifier and just get the job done.